Please grab a seat if you're still standing. We have an amazing event ahead of us. Thank you all for coming. So as you know, the topic for today is AI-powered field service. Pretty sure you've heard of AI recently over the last few weeks, few months, few years. So today, we're going to talk about what AI means in particular in the topic of field service. If you're here today, you do have something to do with this domain. And we have a great agenda for you. So we are going to start to talk a little bit about generic AI, how that applies with Salesforce and field service. We're going to have an amazing demo of field service in action with artificial intelligence. And then a massive thank you to Jason and Damien from BOC, who are already on that journey and they will talk about their experience getting started with field service on Salesforce with ProQuest. All right, so while you still have a chance to log in, while you do that, I'll mention the people we are honored to have today. So Jason O'Brien and Damien Poli from BOC Gases. We have Lisa and Jamie from Salesforce, and Clive Roberts and myself from ProQuest. So maybe a first opening statement, opening question: what is artificial intelligence? Starting from the basics. So we call AI basically the part of computer science that's become capable of performing tasks that would usually requires human intelligence. Yeah, that's a pretty basic definition that I'm sure you're aware and makes sense to you. I think the question from there is, where does it actually start? Yeah, because you have systems, you're using technology every day. These technology help you with process automation, right? This is why you invest in technology to improve your business performance. So does everything relate to artificial intelligence? Because basically it is saving time from a human perspective. So we're going to talk about these different boundaries. So basically we have three categories there. Two of them relate to AI. So the first one is about standard automation. So when you think about a CRM like Salesforce or a field service solution like Salesforce Field Service, a lot of benefits come from automating tasks. And what's captured as standard automation are the steps that you benefit from by having predefined rules, pre-configured program that basically automate some work. So it's providing a lot of value. If your business runs on spreadsheets and you bring standard process automation, you're going to benefit a lot of efficiencies. There are limits though, but it's usually the main starting point. So examples for that are your ABS system, your cruise control on your car, your lane assistance on your vehicle. So they are tasks that respond to predefined configuration. How do you move to AI? What is the difference with AI? So the next category is called narrow AI. Have you ever heard of that term before? All right, so good, you would have learned something today. Narrow AI or weak AI is what we have today, what we are all excited about today. So it's the power of computing assigned to one particular domain, okay? It's different from standard automation by a few categories, a few differences. The main one, it's about learning. AI is different from standard automation because it can learn from large data sets. And it's an iterative process, which means the more you use the system, the more it's fine-tune itself and deliver a better outcome. So narrow AI involves technology like machine learning, neural networks, and deliver better results as you progress. It's still limited though, because it's usually very focused on one particular domain, one single task. Can you tell me some tools you use that might refer to narrow AI? I mentioned ChatGPT before. What else have you heard? Like self-driving cars are part of narrow AI. So yeah, all these tools, Jasper, Midjourney, these tools are there to consume a lot of material, a lot of data, and identify patterns and improve their output. And on the other side, you have general AI or strong AI, which is the dream, yeah? Which is where technology will be able to apply this to multi-domain, not just a single one. So not just being able to understand human language or build a fancy picture or drive a car, but all together. And they will become self-aware, understand empathy, understand emotions, and basically build a consciousness. So this is the end goal. We're not going to dive into that just now. But what's important to understand on this journey from automation to the future of AI is at the core of it, you have data. At the end of the day, it's the data that helps this computing capability to deliver the best outcome. And when you start in field service on your journey, it's all about making sure you capture your data and you make use of that data to support your journey across these different levels of automation and artificial intelligence. Yeah, that makes sense so far? All right, let's check if you paid attention. And let's talk a bit more about AI and field service. So this image, as you can see here, is what ChatGPT and DALL-E produce when you ask them, show me what the future of AI looks like with the future of field service looks like. With a technician using VR goggles and augmented reality to install solar panels on a roof. Pretty amazing, right? With a very small prompt, a computer can create this type of image. So before we get there, what is on the menu for you as you start your journey on AI with field service? So the first one is predictive maintenance. So this one comes from the world of IoT and better understanding your assets, so you can understand better the life cycles. You can identify trends. You can predict and anticipate issues before they arrive. So the more, again, this without data, you're never going to get there. So the more information you capture about your assets, the visits, the type of issues, and the symptoms that have led to identify these issues, the better you're gonna be empowered to predict the issues. Once an issue happens, at the moment you're more likely to have to send someone on site to fix the problem. So with the world of AI, you will have ways to do remote assistance and diagnostics. So maybe avoid having to send someone and help people troubleshoot the problem from the office. We talked about optimized scheduling. This is top of your mind, obviously. The more data, again, you have, the more you're going to be able to optimize the route of your technicians, the allocation of their job, finding the right person at the right time for the right job. Again, link to data, reviewing performance. So once you have set up your field service automation, it's all about optimizing. So the more information you have, the more you will be able to identify the trends, train the people who need training so they get better at what they do. Another key topic is inventory. Might not be relevant to everyone here, but a key problem when you have to manage inventory pickup for your parts, for your installations, and make sure you have the right level of inventory at the right time to complete your job. It all comes down to better customer experience. So AI will help you making sure you inform your customer of what's happening. We received a text this morning about this session today. Yeah, was it helpful? Yeah, to make sure you don't forget and you have the feeling that someone keeps reminding you and keep you informed. So this is what customers expect in 2024. You want them, they use Uber, they use all this technology. They want to know what's going on. And when a technician is coming to their house, they want to be aware when they arrive, and also if the job's going to be finished on time. Finally, compliance and safety. So a key part for a lot of you, HSC compliance will be helped by AI. These are tedious tasks that you have to do. You have to train your technicians to do. If they miss it, your company is on the line. So the more you can automate, the more you can leverage AI for your help, will be a nice addition to your suite of technology. So from here, I invite Jamie to talk a bit about what Salesforce is doing in that field.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Mervin. I'm one of the field service specialists based here out of Sydney. And I think I don't have to tell the field service leaders in the room, but it's a really tough time at the moment to be a field service leader. Maybe a quick show of hands. I always hear that aging workforce, finding technicians is hard. Does that sound relevant to everyone? But there's a lot of increased customer expectations as well. On top of that, companies are expected to start reducing their environmental footprint. That's something that we're quite passionate here at Salesforce. So how do you do all this, right? With raising customer expectations, aging workforce, what is the answer? Do I click it? So obviously the answer is Salesforce Field Service. Just kidding, but I'm not. 67. Did you know that a bottom performer in your organization accounts for 67% more cost than a top performer? So how do you start to get your workforce into that top 20%? With Salesforce Field Service, our customers report a 30% reduction in cost to serve and a 31% increase in first-time fix rate. Bringing the power together of CRM, AI, and Salesforce Field Service is how you can start to look to do this. Now, just in a minute, we're going to welcome the wonderful Lisa to the stage to take us through a demonstration of AI with the goal to improve your workers' productivity by 32%.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa, for the demonstration. Do I need to stop sharing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just while we're getting that sorted, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lisa Stain. It's a little bit, my name is spelled not the way it's pronounced, but that is an aside. I'll blame my husband for that. I'm a lead solution engineer here at Salesforce, and I specialize in our field service product. So today, we're here to show you a seamless customer experience. Now, imagine your customers connecting on their channel of choice. And I guess you can see on the screen here, this is WhatsApp. But we can integrate with SMS, we can integrate with Apple Business Messages, and there's a number of other different native channels that we can also integrate that with on the Salesforce platform. Now, our customers can choose the channel of their choice. We can have them select their date and time that works for them in a fully connected environment, all because it's powered by Salesforce and that field service operation in real time. Now, it's not just about improving that customer experience though, and that customer satisfaction. It's also about helping our contact center to, I guess, deflect some of that interaction, right? So how can we make sure that we are meeting our customers in the field, in the channel of their choice, and also try and deflect some of that booking in inbound contact through that process. Now, imagine me as a customer, and I have just purchased a new electric vehicle. I'm very, very excited about this because I've always wanted an electric vehicle and I'm excited to get started. And so with that, I purchased my vehicle and I need a new charger. Now, right after completing my purchase, I get a welcome message on WhatsApp, and this is going to help me arrange an installation of my new charger. Now, as you can see on the screen, I'm having a conversation with a chatbot. This chatbot knows me. It knows my name. It knows where I am. It knows information about myself because of the power of that connectedness with our Salesforce platform. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate when I interact with a chatbot and I have to repeat myself. And because it knows who I am, I don't have to spell out my name, which we all heard is quite difficult. I don't have to type out my email address again. I get a welcome message and away I go. Now, I'd like to schedule a delivery to get that done ASAP. And again, we can see there that it knows who I am. It knows the product that I've purchased. So away we go. We can click yes to be able to schedule an appointment to have that charger installed. Now, as we see here, I'm having a conversation as well, again, with that chatbot. I would like to pause here for a second though. These slots are part of our secret sauce with Salesforce. So it is powered by Field Service. It is smart scheduling. It's using an optimized engine to be able to get the right field technician with the right skills, with the right location to the place that I need to get to for my customer. Along with all of those other different bits and pieces, we can also customize it based on what is most important to your business. Is that going to be reduced travel time? Is that going to be, I want to make sure that my customer is always first. And so I want to get that scheduling out as soon as possible. We are not only meeting our customer in channel, we are also able to use the information that we've stored directly in our system to optimize that schedule. And because of that, and I'm very, very excited, I want someone to come to me as soon as possible so I can get my charger installed. Now, the system can automatically dispatch the right technician, again, using clicks and not code. This is powered by Appointment Assistant. If we click Track Appointment, we're able to see there the bot fully connected to our CRM using Salesforce Field Service. And we can see there a great example of how CRM, data, and AI together can bring our field service all into one platform and improve our customer experience. We're able to see now and delight our customers with that customer success that we're all after in terms of making sure that we're across empowering our customer with the right information at the right time, including that ETA and my location as a technician. Before I move on to my next, do you have any questions about anything that you've seen here that's been demonstrated? Sure. I'm so sorry, I can't hear you. I'm so sorry with all of the AV.
I'm sorry, in the case, oh, excuse me. In the case where you might find your technician's location sensitive, this is configurable. So
yeah, so it's actually based on the mobile app. So with location-based services, you're able to, I guess, predict, you're able to, I guess, show the application where you're actually going to go. So you can have, I guess, configuration set up so that if you are in a sensitive location, we can toggle on and off location-based services based on that. We can even hide the address location, but I guess the messaging there is that it is extendable enough that that is something that can be catered for.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay. So we've just seen and talked about what that seamless customer experience is like. Now I'd like to spend some time talking about your mobile workforce and how to make them more productive. Now, before we jump in, when we look at innovation delivered by our Salesforce product team, we see a great use case of our generative AI. And there are two different ways at the moment that our product team have been able to deliver this for our customers. One is with a pre-work briefing. So technicians can read everything up front. Don't have to worry about reading through a sleuth of documentation, all the different papers, all of the different knowledge articles, bits and pieces. I'm able to have all of that summarized really nicely for me out of the box. The next is that post summarization, that I'm able to, at the very end of my job then, get a summarization of all of the bits and pieces that I have done as a technician, summarize it, pop it on a work order, create a service report, and get it sent out quickly as possible. I don't know about you, but in a previous life, I used to have to do that and going, not as a field technician, but summarize the things that I did. And I always did it with a glass of wine at the end of the day. But if I had the chance to do it beforehand, I would just have my glass of wine and not have to worry about updating my notes. So, trying to, I guess, provide that efficiency in the stream of work is where AI is playing in that space. Okay, so now let's see it in action. Again, now imagine me as a field technician, and as I open my phone, I see the iOS widget there, which is a brand new functionality in the Salesforce Field Service application. Now, it's providing me already high-level information about my job. And as I quickly update the job status, I can then let my customer know that I'm on my way. Now, after I updated the status, I can see that there is a new Einstein action. That Einstein action is providing me with that pre-work briefing, using that generative AI summarization that can then let me know everything that I need to know about my job. Now, I understand what my job is about, and it's provided me with some dot points there about what I can do next to help get that job done. This is something that is going to, I guess, try and expedite that process and try and get our technicians in the job, getting it done, getting it sorted, so I can streamline that process, make it more efficient, and get my technicians out to the next job quicker. So now I understand a little bit more about my job. I wanted to show you now about the asset health information. Now, with this, it is powered by Salesforce Data Cloud, and it's bringing all of that relevant information into the palm of my hands as a technician to be able to understand exactly what it is that I'm there to do and understanding the asset that I'm going to go and service. Whether that is a solar panel, whether that is a piece of equipment, all that information can be centralized with Salesforce Data Cloud into our application to make sure that our technicians are kept up to date, to the minute, with everything that is happening in the field. Okay, so next I need to attend. So I go down and I see the directions there. Now, this is obviously opening up my native Google Maps on my iOS device, but as I arrive, it also asks me to check in. And this is being done natively throughout the application, but it's using my GPS location. So because it knows that I'm just arriving, it's saying, hey, don't you forget, you need to do your site check-in. And this is based on my location. So what we're doing here is we're keeping compliance and safety at the forefront of everything that we do. But because of that, and because of the prompt and the way that it is set, we're able to do it quickly and efficiently. Let's start. So the way that the application is also set out is with field technicians in mind. The buttons are big naturally, so that I can do it while I have gloves on if required. We can take photos from the field, add them directly to our flow of work, so that not only our technicians, but also our head office staff have full visibility into what is actually being completed. We're able to check to make sure that we've got the right protection and the right gear on, and that we can continue on with our job as quickly as possible. Now, as we start our job, we might need some help with troubleshooting. Now, it doesn't matter if I'm a junior technician or a senior technician, I can easily get help with Einstein. So Einstein lets us get some help with the installation. Now, I'm going to ask it if it can help me try and find what that installation is and how I can do it. Now, what it's done here is it's grabbed the information that's required, and it is done it in a manner where I didn't have to trawl through multiple different PDF documents to try and find that answer. But I kind of know what you're thinking here, and it's, where did the information actually come from? How is it doing it? Well, we can actually ask Einstein. Now, what it's doing is it's showing you the actual knowledge article. I'm going to click it. Thanks. So we've asked Einstein, let's see where the knowledge article is. And we can see this knowledge article and we can actually rate it based on whether it was helpful or not to us. Now, this is again, and I think it goes to what we were learning about before, is that how can we help Einstein to, I guess, learn from what we've, learned from in the past, making sure that in this instance, it was great. The feedback was great and what we got was exactly what we needed. But what if it doesn't? We can then provide it feedback in that feedback loop to make sure that the next time it comes around, that it learns from what it did the last time. Now, as we're about to finish the job, I mentioned we don't have to sit around in our van anymore. We can ask Einstein to help close out the job with AI summarization, which in turn can be saved directly onto that work order and seamlessly be able to be seen, I guess, across that organization. This can be done, as you see here, from my voice as well. So Einstein from the mobile device can actually allow you to actually speak into your mobile device to do the tasks that Einstein are asking you to do. And now with that summarization, we're able to save it to the work order. And we're able to then attach that to our service report. We're able to attach it to our work order and move on from there. Now, what we're seeing here is that Einstein is actually suggesting to us some upsell to our customer here. So from the field, Einstein is able to actually help us pitch new opportunities to our customers in the field. Now with that, we're able to get the relevant items to build the quote, and we're able to see the relevant items and also the relevant price directly from the mobile device. The price here, we're able to see exactly what we need to be able to build that quote out from the field, streamlining that back to head office so that it can be actioned with payment and an opportunity to try and close that out. But knowing that it actually originated from the field. So now I don't have to type in, write an email, call my superior to say, you know what, this person is asking for something additional. It now can be originated from the field, again, shortening that time to opportunity or shortening that time to close. And it could even mean that I can do it actually while I'm out in the field. Once we've got that done, I can get a signature captured for the work for the quote and continue on my way. Now to summarize here, this is again an example of how CRM plus AI plus data and our field service application can drive an end-to-end revenue generation engine and drive self-service productivity. Thanks very much, everyone.
All right, so it's time for the fireside chat. So I invite Jason and Damien to come to the big chairs, and Chris and Clive as well, please. Some of you are mic'd up. We're gonna have the mics in over. So Jason and Damien have been living and breathing Salesforce Field Service for a few months now. Thank you so much for coming today. And yeah, let's kick it off.
All righty. Can everyone hear me? Excellent. I always get tripped out with these lapel mics. So thank you everyone for joining us today. It's my pleasure as the account executive for BOC to introduce Jason and Damien and Clive, one of the partners we've been working with for a long time. Get started. Panel. So my name's Chris. I've been with the business for 7 years across a variety of different areas, but you're not here to speak to me or hear from me. You're here to hear some questions from me. So Jason, Damien, Clive, can you just give us a bit of an overview of your roles, what you do in the business, and what brought you here today?
Jason, is that better? Jason O'Brien. I'm the Director of IT and Digital for BOC. I might just spend 45 seconds just who BOC is here in, we call ourselves South Pacific. So BOC, we're an industrial gas and hard goods equipment company. We've got plants and what we call production facilities in every state across Australia and all of the and New Zealand, not that they call them states, but the two islands, and the Pacific Islands as well. We effectively break ourselves into sort of three streams of business. We've got what we call pipeline. So they're customers that are effectively connected to our production, connected to our production facilities. We've got our cylinder business. And so we have about 2 million cylinders across Australia and New Zealand. And one of the unique things about that is we continue to own those cylinders. And so there's people who buy from us. There's a rental component that's associated with that, and we need to track all of those things. And then there's our bulk business. And our bulk business, we have about sort of 20,000 assets that we do, and that's effectively where we deliver liquid product predominantly to a customer, and then that we deliver product to that. So we've got across Australia and New Zealand, we've got about 400,000 active customers. And so we classify an active customer as someone who trades with us more than once a year. And yeah, that's probably the key. So where would you interact with us? You go to McDonald's, it will be our product generally. If you're at your pub, that will likely be our product that's in there, all the way through to our products go into steel, manufacturing, the whole gamut. So that's what we do as a business in a snapshot.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my name's Damien Pauly. I'm the asset management manager. I don't know how I ended up with that job title, but we'll save that for a separate conversation. So my team broadly looks after the asset management systems across all of those lines of business. My background for the last sort of 5-6 years or so has been in that customer engineering space though. So that's where we've got our equipment sitting on a customer site. And we've got our technicians running around and installing and maintaining all of that gear. So that's obviously where field service comes into the fray.
Thanks, Damien. I'm Clive Roberts. I'm a sales director at ProQuest. So ProQuest is a Summit Salesforce partner. We focus exclusively on Salesforce, on the Salesforce platform. And over the last decade or even more, we've focused a lot of our attention on delivering field service solutions to the likes of BOC. In fact, we've scheduled, I think we've done about 130,000 hours of work in the field service domain. And we've scheduled dog ranges, pest control services, obviously worked for BOC, and a host of other things. So we've seen every sort of permutation and complexity. Well, probably not everyone, they always do things, but we've seen a lot. And we love doing this work because it's a great thing that boosts operational efficiency and we get great results. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks all. So you've given us a bit of an overview of what BOC broadly does in the market. I think what would be good for the audience here is to understand what drove your decision to evaluate Salesforce Field Service, what was happening at the point in time where you entered into that decision, and then of course what's happened subsequently.
I might start with the big picture and then Damien can take us into the specifics. So we implemented sales and service for our call center and account management processes we're probably in our 5th year now. And so that's where we started our journey with Salesforce. One of the keys over the last couple of years that we've been looking to do is a significant focus on the 360-degree view of the customer. And as I sort of alluded to, a key component of that, particularly for what we consider our bulk customers, is the whole interaction between our account teams and the team that actually deliver the products, but install and maintain the products. And our starting point was, although we had some great systems, I can say that because Damien had actually built them, they were completely disconnected, completely invisible to the two parts of the organization. So for us, the key drive was how can we improve that connectivity between our account management and our field service team to be able to improve the service that we ultimately provided to the customer.
Yeah, so I guess to talk to some specifics more on that field service journey, if we go back a number of years, I forget exactly the date, but all of our field service technicians were entirely paper-based. So we were printing out a month's worth of work. You'd hand it to one of the techs and you'd cross your fingers that it would come back at some stage. And there was all sorts of trading and bargaining going on between the technicians as to who was doing what. But also, you know, you'd get your carbon copy checklists back with varying degrees of quality in terms of what was going on them, or coffee stains, as it were, for some of the technicians. So we took a leap back then to essentially turn that process digital, using a different product at the time. But as good as that was to get everything in a digital platform where we could see it all, it was still very much a paper-based process, I guess. So it was still download all that data, hand it off to the technicians, and they, by and large, scheduled their own work and their own days. Obviously, there's a bit of control there around specifics that needed to happen at specific times, but it was a free-for-all, probably was the best way to describe it most of the time. So, yeah, really what we were looking to do was to take not necessarily control of that, but take the next step along that journey. Obviously answer some questions around how effective your technicians are you making the best use of their time, and those sorts of things as well. And that's really what drove us down that field service path once we sort of evaluated a few different options, and, you know, could we integrate with what we had and some other outside stuff. And obviously, as Jason touched on, we had some existing stuff in the Salesforce platform, and it made a lot of sense to bring it all into the one platform where everyone could see it.
I think that one other thing too is we do installs, and we do reactive maintenance and proactive maintenance, and you know, part of our challenge is how that got prioritized, and what often was happening behind the scenes is, well, if you're my installer and I think this install is important, I'll ring up the account manager could ring you up and then get that prioritized over what we may have considered a more critical piece of proactive or reactive maintenance work. And so there was a lot of flexibility for our technicians with regards to, and our account teams as well, to be able to bypass what we would have thought may have been the prioritized work.
Yeah, and in that, I mean, we've had schedulers in scheduling roles the whole time. But I think we did a time in motion study a number of years ago, and they may be spending 5% of their time actually scheduling. And there was a lot of other noise around exactly that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been very nice to actually have them empowered and scheduling. And some of them have taken it to it like ducks into water. They absolutely love it. So it's good.
Jason, I guess there's always competition for investment funds in your business. So you kind of got this feeling and seen some demonstrations, talked to us, felt like it was a good idea, but how did you progress the business case? What was the business case predicated on? So what did you do to get the project going?
Yeah, I assume, well, I don't know whether our investment process will be better than worse than anyone that's sitting around the table, but I'm sure you often look with envy at somebody else's and go, I wish I had that investment process. You know, we are, particularly with regards to IT, we're quite ROI driven. I think the fact that we were already in the Salesforce journey helped us a little bit, because we were able to demonstrate and go back and look and say, well, this is what the introduction of the first modules have been able to give us and what we've been able to drive. But just the replacement of our current system wasn't enough. And we did actually we were tasked with, can we make it an ROI driven project? And that's where work Damien started to do came into it. So you might go through some of that detail.
Yeah. And I should preface this by saying a lot of this happened over a number of years as we had a few restructures throughout the business and various priorities and stuff got lost. So we did string Clive along a little bit, but we got there in the end, which was good. Yeah, so I guess we started off with some retrospective data around what our technicians had been doing, and I'll tell you right now, that was a nightmare to try and reconstruct their day back with what we used to have, just to try and work out where people had been and what they'd done. But we got a sample of that. I think at the time we actually provided that to the Salesforce team, just to sort of, you know, run this through your optimization at a very high level and tell us maybe what could come back. And I think, I don't remember the exact numbers, but we said, look, we can do this percentage travel improvement and that sort of stuff. We wanted a degree more of certainty, I guess, amongst the board before we committed. So We then commissioned a proof of concept where we essentially did the same exercise, but in-house. So we built out a skeleton of the functionality that we might need, put some of our real job data in there, and then ran that through the optimization tools to work out what our travel and those sorts of things would look like. That was actually good on a couple of fronts, because not only did it do some of the work that we would have done in the project anyway, so we were sort of getting a head start on that. It gave us a really good idea of what other work we needed to do. So it actually gave us that hands-on time with the tool, which was personally, I got heaps out of that. And so we could then firm down that RFQ for the full project. So once we had that, we kind of had a couple of different sources of data that agreed with, you know, sort of a high and low range of, or what did we call it? Conservative and optimistic travel improvement. Obviously, all of the soft benefits around time savings for processing, that sort of stuff, built out a business case from there. And yeah, the timing was right. I think when we were speaking about this recently, there was a point around the maturity of the business as well. And we were at that point where, you know, these other parts of Salesforce were reasonably well embedded too. So all of that other stuff around bringing in all of these customer interactions into the same platform that the sales team can see, customer service can see, it all just stars kind of aligned on that front, I suppose.
So just to be, although there were probably a number of metrics that we could have used, we justified the investment effectively on the efficiency from travel was the one. We can talk about a whole lot of the other things, but ours was justified on travel saving. And because we have a mix of employee and contractor is in this piece, and so yeah, it was efficiency around travel. Effectively drove the whole ROI for us.
Yeah, and I think we'll touch on the actual benefits a bit later on, but we've definitely seen a lot more than that now that it's implemented too.
So just to be clear, what you did is we did a paid engagement, like a proof of concept, in order to help them validate what they thought they could get out of the system. And then Damien was able to really sort of get his hands on that prototype that we built and retrospectively look at how the performance would be improved, which was pretty sort of impressive on Damien's account, but really helped them sort of get the case across. So once we'd had our proposal accepted to do the work, how did the implementation go? And I'm starting to ask some Dorothy Dixers here to get some nice things about ProQuest. And I might say to the audience, you know, we've got a couple more questions here, but feel free if something comes up to start asking your own questions. But yeah, the implementation, what were the key sort of takeaways from that whole process?
Yes, I think right from the get-go, and I think this comes back to doing the proof of concept as well, we're able to establish some pretty clear sort of goals, you know, map out the pain points for the different personas throughout our organization too, which then kind of steered which pieces we would focus on throughout the development. And it was evident very early on that the expertise from the ProQuest side was going to help us. So I remember a couple of particular instances where we thought we were going to go about a certain piece of functionality one way, but we had a sort of comfortable enough relationship that the ProQuest team could actually challenge us on that and suggest something different. And that's actually helped shape our implementation in a very positive direction. Because, I mean, from our side, it was the first time we were using this tool, right? So whilst we'd had some exposure from the POC, we're certainly not experts. I don't claim to be an expert now by any means. So yeah, having that experience and that fairly open, comfortable relationship was from my side personally really great as well. And yeah, look, the time flew by. I'm a little sad we don't have those daily calls anymore. That was like the best part of my day. But
You can call me anytime.
yeah. But like, yeah, we had really, really good working relationship, I think. And yeah, it just progressed and progressed. Obviously, we had to provide input where we needed to provide input. There were probably times that actually on our side, we struggled to keep up with the pace that things were being delivered, which I suppose is a good thing. It's a fairly aggressive timeline, I guess, but we came in pretty much on time and on budget from memory, which is always a good thing for one of these projects. Last thing you want to do is go and ask for more money. So we managed to avoid that one, thankfully. But yeah, overall experience is incredibly positive, which was great.
Yeah, maybe have Jason say a little more, but one of the key things I think about this particular contract was it's a collaboration and try to be on the same side of the table with the contract, where we didn't want to get into any kind of conflict where there's some fixed price for absolutely fixed scope that's being strenuously applied. We know what we're doing. We work at velocity and we work out together. Sure, we know what the project price is. We know pretty much what we're going to deliver, but there'll be some leeway along the way because you might want to move things in and out of scope, make some pragmatic decisions. But what we want to do is converge to that price because it's hard for you to go back to your board and say, oh, we need another $100,000. And I think that's what we achieved here. But Jason, you might have more to say.
Yeah, the way we're structured is before we get engaged, we have a very enthusiastic procurement team who love to get their teeth because they're experts at everything. They're not here, so they were very helpful in setting up, laying the foundation of the relationship, and then we spent the first sort of couple of months then trying to get it to where we actually needed it to be. I think as Clive mentioned, we've done a few of these things before, and I think one of my learnings coming into when we're engaging with a partner to work with us is you need to have the common goal. I mean, it's a bit of a easy thing to say, but we've done it in the past where we go, well, we're just handing responsibility to you, and it's just very adversarial because you don't achieve the outcomes that you're wanting to. And I think because we've done the proof of concept and stuff along the way, we recognize the value that we know what we want to achieve out of our scheduling and what we want the people to do, but we didn't know everything about what Salesforce could offer to fix that. And I think, we also had a very good product, although he's sitting here, because you'd built the prior system. You weren't hung up about things and we knew the pain points. And I think that was an important piece for us, the collaboration and working together clearly, but not being fixed on it must be this module or it must be this way, because we knew what we wanted to achieve from a functionality perspective, but we were less hung up about, and it must be done this way within the system. Because if we could achieve the outcome, because we're very much focused on how do we continue to get the right engagement with our field technicians and generate the return on investment that we were looking for.
Yeah, and I think it's probably also worth mentioning that for those other parts of Salesforce that we're using, that implementation was done by a different partner that we have a global agreement with, I think. So it was a bit of a leap of faith to go outside of that, but at the same time, they were not experts in field service. So that probably would have opened up a lot of other pitfalls. And yeah, that expertise, knowing the tool, knowing what it can do, I think has delivered a lot for us throughout the journey.
Sure. I was talking to somebody in the audience earlier about the fact they've got Salesforce in as CRM. They've got other systems that are driving the whole field service thing. So they lack that common platform, and it's a big problem when you've got data everywhere and it's not necessarily integrated easily. So you mentioned that common platform with the sales team was a big driver. And also, the decommissioning of other apps. So maybe what has been the outcome and what kind of metrics have you seen improvement in since going live?
Yeah, so lots of different things. Not everything that we were sort of expecting from day one. I think we're, based on the business case, very hung up on the travel piece, and that's certainly been there. Probably the unexpected piece was actually and again, look, this varies state by state, and I think the term we used describing it the other day was non-homogenous amongst our organisation in terms of how our technicians behave and perform and what expectations they're trying to meet. But through setting the expectation of a schedule and how many jobs should fit in that day, we've actually seen across the board on average an increase in how many jobs the techs are getting through. So part of that's the travel time, the travel reduction. And then the other part of that is they're spending less time on the job. Now, whether that's because they're spending less time punching around on the iPad or whether they're just getting through it because they can see the schedule for the rest of the day. Little bit hard to tell, but my gut feel is that there's just that level of expectation. So yeah, I think when we looked at some samples, we were talking around 10 or 15% improvement in that space, which is great. It's helping us actually get through a backlog of jobs and handle some fairly major projects as well, which weren't there before. So yeah, on that side, it's been really handy. And then obviously there's all of that soft stuff that we're talking about in terms of getting this information on the same platform. So our sales team have gone from having absolutely no view of all of these customer interactions to being able to see the last time a technician was on site, see their paperwork. And, you know, the example we go back to is we had a call out at, let's say we had a call out at 3 a.m. to keep the customer running, and that's happening at the same time you're negotiating a contract. Like, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Trying to put a dollar figure to that.
Again, another thing we had during the implementation was fun. I think we all agreed it was a great project. We enjoyed working with you. So it was fun doing it. But hopefully, would you say your organization is having a bit more fun operating the system? Because when you've got broken systems, it's not a lot of fun and a lot of pain sorting the shit out, basically.
Yeah, and that's hit differently for different people throughout the organization as well. And I think it's probably important to touch on the fact that this is a massive cultural change for our technicians. So they've gone from a position of essentially deciding their own day for the most part to having a prescribed schedule and limiting the amount of how far forward they see that. So, you know, some of them are okay with it. Some of the really independent, really qualified guys are, you know, maybe not the happiest, but like I say, we're seeing that return coming back on their output as well. And then certainly for some of the other roles throughout the business, yeah, there's a lot more enjoyment there. Like I said before, our schedulers actually have the opportunity and the empowerment to schedule. And as we rolled out in each state, obviously their personalities are all a little bit different, but for some of them, you could see the fire reignite. It was just that influence on the business was the piece that they were missing, because they were kind of in a really sort of squishy position before where they were getting asked a lot of things but didn't have a lot of influence to make it happen. So yeah, there's definitely an element of that, absolutely.
Awesome, thanks guys. So we have a question from the audience we'll take in a moment, but you touched on this before, Jason, like the lessons learned. Maybe this is for all three of the panel up here as well. You had a magic wand to go back and do it from the beginning. Would you do things differently? Would you do it the same way? And what are some lessons you've learned along the way?
Interestingly, we would put this up as one of our better IT digital projects that we've done over the last 4 or 5 years. If I think about it, two of the things that we did that have been lessons out of previous Salesforce and other IT implementations, having a passionate product owner with great credibility. So you can have a passionate product owner who doesn't have credibility with it. So Damien did wear both of the hats, and so was able to go out into the field service organization and be able to tell them what was coming and why we were doing something. I think if I look back at some of our previous ones, particularly in our account management, when we tried to roll out our account management stuff, we didn't have the right engagement with account managers. So we were telling them what they were going to get, and it perhaps didn't go quite as well. So that for me is one. The other piece was that everyone has steer codes for these projects and the like, but we actually had all of the stakeholders involved at various points, and that actually was ProQuest time sitting on our steer code. So it wasn't us talking about what ProQuest was doing to us or what Salesforce was doing to us. At appropriate times, we had both of those groups sitting in on the steer code that we had to ensure that what we were wanting to achieve was aligned amongst the three delivery parties. And I think for me, that's one of the things I've learnt in the past. If everyone's on the same page, you're far more likely, it's not guaranteed, but you are far more likely to be able to get there than if you're only trying to do it yourself and trying to herd the cattle to get to the end point that you're wanting to do.
Yeah, and I think, you know, talking about things that you do differently, in an ideal world, I'd love to resource it more from our side. Just because, yeah, there's a lot of focal point on the product owner. But you know, at the same time, like I said, there were points, particularly throughout like UAT periods and stuff, where we're actually struggling to keep up with how much was being delivered and how much we needed to test, just because we were sort of focalizing down to one person for the most part. Yeah, and I think that change management is a really big piece, and by no means do I think we got that perfect on this project either. I think particularly with our technician group, given they were the group that's going through the most cultural change, it in an ideal world we might put some more time into that relationship as well, and actually maybe give them the opportunity to come out of their day-to-day for a period to influence the project. That was probably a bit of a struggle. And then yeah, so I guess what it means is that we implemented, obviously there was some change management there, but we had a fairly aggressive rollout to all of our states. I think we visited 6 regions in 3 months or something like that, and did in-person training. And it would have been nice at the end of that if we'd budgeted a bit of time, and this is our internal piece, but it budgeted a bit of time to say, we've rolled all this out, what feedback have we got, and let's actually implement that as part of the project as well, because I think we ended up with quite a lengthy backlog of things that we could have addressed throughout the rollout and sort of smoothed out from state to state as well. We did a bit, you know, we had that hypercare period right after implementation, but you learn a lot over the first sort of month, 2 months, 3 months as well. That would have been really nice to capture on the project as well. We are working through it now. It's just taking time to get through. So,
And maybe data. I mean, data, but you know, we thought we had good data.
oh boy.
We hoped we had good data, perhaps. And then you're putting it into a different system. And I think after the first one, that was one of our ahas. The work that we had to do, or you had to do, we make it sound like I did something. Contributing. The data that we had to do and the data cleanup, I think, was, and you know, we'd made some assumptions about data, how we'd get the historical and projects in progress, and some of that was a literal crapshoot.
Yeah, the legacy systems left a little bit to be desired on that front, which was always going to be a challenge. But also when it comes to the work orders and the scheduling, it's a level of detail that we'd never done before, right? So some of that data we didn't know that we needed, or we thought we had, and it didn't quite give us what we needed to classify jobs and skills and all of those sorts of things. So a lot of learning as we go, just given it is so new, and that scheduling piece is such a big change for us.
And Clive, I'll throw to you on the same question. I know in our conversations, you were quite, you know, very positive in your reviews of Damien and gave him an award for the implementation. But are there any lessons you took away from the engagement as well from your side, and one that you might talk about?
Look, I think it was one of our best projects over the last few years as well, just in the sense that there was an agreement, there was a collaboration, there was pragmatism on the part of the customer. Big part for us, and Damien's getting a bit too much of a rap, so I'm going to stop.
I'm not going to fit out the door on the way. My head's just.
But it is so important to have a product owner. I was saying to Jason before, we've seen senior executives be product owners, and they clearly shouldn't be if they haven't got the time. If they got the time, then great. But we've seen people get dragged away on M&A activity, and they're not turning up to meetings anymore. It's just so important to have all the roles fully laid out. What's your obligations? What are our obligations? And then just work at the best velocity we can with reasonableness as well, because we don't want to be buying pizzas for our consultants at 10 o'clock at night to try to get some crazy, stupid piece of work done that should never have been guaranteed. And we work really hard on having a methodology that's systematic and reasonable, so that, you know, everybody can continue to have their normal, you know, work-life balance as we get the project done. And it was a really well executed project, and we really enjoyed it.
Fantastic.
Part of that methodology, we run a showcase every fortnight, so the business can see the product coming to life. So we had a few of these showcases with BOC. Damien, do you want to comment on the importance of the outfit you wear in this showcase?
That was really fun actually. We almost ended up with wigs at one point, but we avoided that. So yeah, during the showcases, we were playing real life personas throughout the business. So we actually picked certain people, and yes, an unnamed project manager ended up getting all of the female personas for some reason. I'm not sure if that was deliberate or not, but yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it's kind of nice. It takes that sort of that edge off of it. You know, we're presenting it to people within the business. Some of them were seeing it for the first time at that point. And you know, that's got the potential to just be a fairly boring drone of, and now I'm gonna go and execute my job and all of that. But you know, by getting into the character, and giving it a sense of realism and life, and you know, we took the time to get the real examples as well. I think I taught some people about how CO2 goes into beer, which is always good knowledge to know. So they'll carry that with them every time they go to the pub from now on. But yeah, the showcase is really good, and they were received really well throughout the business as well, which is always helps keeping that change momentum going when we actually went to roll out.
We did have one question from the gentleman in the green top there. Can we get, I mean, you could.
Picking up on your last learning about, oh, thank you. Picking up on your last learning, you talked about data because the system is great, but if you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey, you know, asset data and the quality of that, the technician data and the quality of that, and how did you, what was the process, what was the journey, how did you get there in the end?
I can take that, yeah. So I guess to answer that, there's probably two pieces to it because we actually kind of split our implementation into two phases. So the first one was our maintenance phase, which was the pure field service piece. And then we did a project workflow afterwards as well, which is where we're looking at quotation and installation type jobs. So the maintenance piece was reasonably straightforward. We've obviously got our back-end system that drives everything. We built an integration to come across. So our asset information, work orders, those sorts of things were reasonably good. Probably the bit that was missing for us in particular was the skills for our technicians and the skills for the types of jobs that we wanted to do, because we'd never formalized that before. It was in our planners' heads, it was in our maintenance managers' heads that the technicians knew what they could and couldn't do, but we'd never mapped that out to say, well, what are the actual skills that define should you do that job, yes or no? So that was something we essentially just had to build from the ground up. It was sort of interviewed the maintenance managers on it a little bit to say, well, what do you think these skills should be? You know, draft something up and get their review. And then in each region, as we rolled out, that was sort of one of our pre-work steps before we had the technicians in for training, was to try and get all of that mapped out beforehand. And by no means was it perfect, obviously being brand new. So we've made a couple of tweaks and adjustments since then. One thing I wasn't expecting was that different regions would have different skills, even though all of the equipment's by and large the same. We won't get into that too much. Yeah, no, of course. I think, yeah, it's easy to assume it's all going to be perfect, but you know, that's never the way it plays out. But so yeah, for maintenance, that was reasonably straightforward. It was more plugging a few gaps of things that we just haven't had to consider before. Where it started to get really messy was when we did the projects piece. And that was largely driven by the, I'm not going to say inadequacy, I'm going to say the improper use of our legacy system. What was in the project management system versus what had physically happened out in the field were quite often two different things. So, you know, you set some criteria to go, I'm going to move all my active projects, and then before you know it, there's half a dozen over here that the system says are complete, but we've only just got the purchase order from the customer, and the other way around. So that's had a few iterations, a lot of data going through a lot of spreadsheets to try and map from one system to the other. But by and large, that's mostly done now. And, you know, it's a very transitional thing. Once you finish a project, it's kind of done. So as we go through further in time, that'll dwindle off more and more. And well, I'll sleep better at night. No, it wasn't that bad. It's just one particularly long weekend to get through it. But yeah, those were probably the main challenges, I reckon. And yeah, I think that kind of covers it.
We were talking about this just earlier today. I mean, two things that almost go without saying, but things that are in people's heads. So we've got a number of we operate under a state thing, but our CES doesn't follow, our engineering teams don't follow the state borders. But state licensing do follow state borders, and how you've got to schedule then those particular aspects. And the system's now able to clearly help us do that a whole lot better, whereas before that was a lot more manual.
Yeah.
And I think one of the pieces, again, that we're still working through is the system's able to generate things to look at things efficiently, you know, where you should go most times. But over a historical piece of time, you could be at a plant, you could be at a customer's location. So we talked about 20,000 pieces of materials. They're at about 7,000 customer locations, I think you were saying.
Yep.
So you could be going there, and does it make sense? You've got to try and then bring some of the things into order. If it's a 10-minute away from where you are, you don't. But if it's 2 hours away, well, you want to be able to do something that might be out of sequence, which we never had any visibility to, which the system is now giving us visibility to. But you need to make some deliberate decisions about how you're then going to incorporate that as you try and get the most value out of the system. Because they were all on pieces of paper before, and everyone knew, if I go there once a month or once a quarter, I'll pick that up next time, or I don't have to, those sort of things. So I think the visibility of data to all of the people that are looking over the system is now far better. But you need to get there to be able to have all of that visibility.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of that stuff around, I think I mentioned the example earlier when we were chatting around, we had multiple pieces of equipment on the same customer site that came out in different months. They had the same scheduling frequency and everything. They'd just been installed at different points over the years, and someone started the maintenance plan when it was installed, right? That's stuff that we probably could have cleaned up on its own, regardless of what field service system we're using. But the fact that it highlights now, because the technician goes, hey, I know there's 2 monitors here, but I've only got a work order for one of them. It's kind of forced us to look at that in a bit more detail, which is a good thing, because once you've got someone barking in your ear about it, it kind of tends to happen. So yeah, it's been good on that front. Obviously, a lot of work goes into cleaning that up, and we're still going to continue working through that. I think that's never going to go away, just because we have movements of equipment quite often. But yeah, it's bringing the importance of scheduling to the forefront, which we didn't have before. It was just kind of, yep, let it rip and she'll be right before. So yeah, it's nice to be looking at it in a bit more detail.
Questions? The travel one. Yeah, travel related question. So I'm assuming you probably defined travel as time of technician time, I'm guessing. Did you take any, I guess, attention, or have you, or will you take any attention of maybe the kilometers or the liters of fuel consumed as well from I guess, from an ESG standpoint, for example? Have turned any focus to that?
That's a really good question. It sounds like it's going to create a bit more work for me in the future, but that's okay. So yeah, you're right. Time's really easy to measure for us at the moment. Our technicians do timesheets. That's all super easy to report now. I'm so thankful for being able to spit that data out on a mass basis, because that was a struggle before. We have vehicle GPS data from a separate system at the moment. In theory, we could try and line some of that up. But this actually goes back to that point around how hard it was for us to benchmark in our old system, because the GPS data from the vehicle didn't link to what job the technician was doing. So I think if we were going to go down that path, we'd have to look at some integration there to really get some valid results out of it. But yeah, at the moment we're running on the assumption that less hours is less kilometers.
Less fuel consumed, do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to think so. Yeah, that's probably as far as we've gone with that at the moment.
But I also think for us in that you're right about the ESG, and the ESG is a big part of what we do, that we look at as well. There's a difference in behaviour between employee and contractor, and what we want to be able to drive, because some contractors could claim time and anyway, the formulas are more complex than it is if you're an employee, and clearly that's one of the benefits that the system is able to help us with, that it might be better for an employee to do a trip than a contractor,
Mm.
which we need to work, which we've been working through and Damien's been doing. So it's not as simple as those two measures, because it's the measure of then the who is doing it as well that comes into it.
But it was a pure, when you say travel, it's basically time not on site is how you define travel.
Yeah, so
Alright.
our timesheets for the technicians separated out. So yeah, you could say it's time not on site. They do some work on our own internal sites as well. So there's a little bit of that. Yeah, it's something that we need to delve a bit more into, I think. But like I say, actually, we're getting some really quality data out now. Part of that's just it's easier for the technicians to put their times in. They struggled with visibility over their timesheets in the legacy system. And yeah, it's just easier to get the data out too, which sounds nerdy, but I get really excited about that. It just opens up a whole lot of possibilities.
I think what's clear here is that it's iterative, right? You start with a specific set of requirements, and then that grows into more once you get more data flowing through it. So I think depending on where you are in your journey and what is important to your business will determine where you start. And then the data will feed through and allow you more options, hopefully, than prior. So phase 2.
Oh, even seeing some of that the AI stuff before, I was taking some notes. So yeah.
Well, when you specifically that, it's just knowing the way that they are. You know, we say you should be going to that job, but they decide that they're visiting their mother-in-law. You know, and
Let's
we
not talk about lunch breaks.
yeah. Or whether I mean, and so part of us is we do run. Besides our field technicians, we run a distribution fleet. So we have taken some of the learnings that we've done we run probably 200 trucks across Australia and New Zealand. And so some of the work that we've been doing about the efficiency with which we schedule our distribution, we've been able to transfer across, but we didn't have a system. We now have the system to be able to do that as well, to be able to help us with that.
Awesome. I think we've taken plenty of time. I think we've got a bit more, but we were going to talk about what does the future hold. I think we've touched on it quite a bit, motivated by the questions from the audience. No, thank you for. Is there anything maybe that's on your roadmap specific to FSL or more broadly when it comes to Salesforce that you're contemplating? I think, Damien, you alluded to the demo, giving you some ideas, but maybe a question like around that for you to round it out.
Yeah, I think so. To put a timeline to this, we started rolling this out in the middle of last year through till when we were in New Zealand, like October, I think, and then the projects piece went in November. So by the time you have the Christmas break and stuff, we're still very new here, right? And there's still that piece of user feedback and stuff that we need to work through, particularly to keep that user experience engaging and keep the technicians on side is probably the biggest target audience for that at the moment, because they've had, like I mentioned, the biggest cultural change, and that's maybe where the most friction we have is. So there's an element of that, of just continuing to iterate and not just sort of dropping a project in and walking away saying it's done. And as we learn more about the scheduling, we're continuing to refine how we consider certain types of jobs. And a lot of that's just config, which is nice and easy because we can do it ourselves. So I'd say they're probably my main focuses at the moment. I don't know, Jason, if you want to touch on the broader business stuff.
I mean, the AI topic for us is a large one. I think we're looking at what we can do in the sales and service side, particularly around AI. As I talked about, so we have a call center of about 120 to 130, 130 to 140 seats. And so we're looking about what calls can be deflected, what cases can be deflected, what cases can be automated. And so that's a large piece for us. And we're looking at the AI to be able to help drive a lot of that for us. And we've started that. We're probably 6 months into that. We've taken some baby steps, but I think we need to improve in that regard. So that's probably where the future is for us with a broader Salesforce perspective.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on stage and talking through the journey so far, and look forward to having you at more events like this. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. I hope you find this session helpful and inspiring. Please reach out to Salesforce or us if you need any further clarification, if you have any questions. Worth noting, as Clive mentioned earlier, we've been helping companies since 2013 on field service. You can see a few of the logos here. And yeah, we'll be more than happy to look into your particular field operations and how we can help you. We even have put together an accelerator. So a lot of companies are wondering, how do we get started? So we package a solution so you understand how to start on the right foot with a contained engagement at the back of all our expertise in this space. So you can scan the code. We will follow up after this event to make sure we can answer all your questions.